The Great Collapse. Why the ancient world burned. The Golden Age, the world before the fire. Imagine a world connected by gold, bronze, and shared dreams. Around 1200 BCE, the Mediterranean was the center of civilization itself. Trade ships crossed the seas carrying copper, tin, ivory, grain, and silk-like luxury goods between kingdoms that believed their prosperity would last forever. Across the Aegean rose the fortified palaces of the Mycenaean civilization. In the south stood the eternal power of ancient Egypt, ruled by god-kings and protected by the Nile. And in Anatolia, the vast Hittite Empire controlled armies, diplomacy, and the vital trade routes of the ancient world. This was the Bronze Age, a globalized world before globalization. Cities overflowed with art and engineering, kings exchanged gifts and royal marriages. Humanity, for the first time, felt interconnected. It looked invincible, but history has a brutal way of reminding us. The higher civilizations rise, the harder they fall. The first signs, when the cracks began. But perfection is fragile, and collapse rarely begins with a single explosion. It begins quietly. The weather changed, the rains stopped, rivers shrank beneath the burning sun, harvests failed across the eastern Mediterranean. Recent scientific evidence suggests the ancient world entered a prolonged period of drought and climate instability. But climate alone was not enough to destroy empires. The Bronze Age depended on fragile systems. Tin arrived from distant lands. Copper came from Cyprus. Grain shipments fed entire populations. Trade routes were the lifeblood of civilization, and once those arteries began to fail, the whole body weakened. People grew hungry, cities grew restless. Fear spread faster than armies. The gods remained silent. The kings appeared powerless. And beneath the shining surface of civilization, the foundations of the world began to crack. The Mysterious Invaders, the Sea Peoples. Then came the storm. From the horizon appeared an enemy unlike anything the ancient world had ever seen. The Egyptians called them the Sea Peoples. To this day, nobody knows exactly who they were. They carried no unified banner, no single kingdom, no empire, only movement, only destruction. Ancient inscriptions describe entire migrating populations crossing the sea, warriors, families, refugees fleeing chaos, not merely raiders, but collapsing civilizations in motion. Some historians believe they came from the shattered Aegean world. Others argue they were driven by famine, war, and climate disaster. Wherever they came from, they were unstoppable. One by one, the great cities fell. The mighty Hittite capital, Hattusa, was reduced to ashes. Trade ports vanished beneath fire and smoke. Entire kingdoms disappeared from history within a generation. Even the armies of ancient Egypt struggled to survive the assault. The ancient world was no longer collapsing, it was burning. The Great Domino Effect. When civilization snapped, what followed was one of the greatest systemic collapses in human history. A domino effect unlike anything the world had ever seen. Because the Bronze Age kingdoms were deeply interconnected. When one kingdom fell, its trading partners suffered. When trade failed, food systems collapsed. When food disappeared, armies dissolved, governments evaporated. And once stability vanished, fear consumed everything. Within only a few decades, the vast international network of the Bronze Age did not merely weaken, it snapped. The seas emptied, diplomacy vanished, entire populations fled into isolation. This was more than invasion, more than war. It was the collapse of a global system. Climate catastrophe, economic failure, mass migration, political chaos, all happening at once. And civilization simply could not survive the pressure. Silence in the records. When the lights went out, then came the silence. If we examine the archaeological record, we find something deeply unsettling. The writing stopped, the building stopped, the trade stopped. It was as if humanity suddenly turned off the lights. Grand palaces that once housed kings and diplomats became ruins, occupied by survivors who could no longer read the clay tablets scattered across the floor. Entire writing systems disappeared. Sophisticated engineering knowledge faded into myth. Art became simpler. Architecture became primitive. The survivors of the collapse inherited a world they no longer understood. Historians would later call this period the Dark Age, not because the world became evil, but because history itself went dark. The long shadow, the ancient warning. So how does humanity survive the end of the world? Slowly, painfully, but never perfectly. It took centuries for civilization to recover from the Bronze Age collapse. Yet humanity endured. New tools emerged. Iron replaced bronze. New kingdoms rose from the ashes of the old world. And eventually Greece, Rome, and the civilizations that shaped our modern age would appear. But the collapse left behind a warning that still echoes today. Civilization is not permanent. It is not guaranteed. It is a fragile architecture held together by trust, stability, and interconnected systems. The people of the Bronze Age believed their world was eternal. They were wrong. And perhaps that is why this story still feels so hauntingly modern. Global trade, fragile supply chains, climate instability, mass migration, political fragmentation. The ancient world collapsed nearly 3,200 years ago, and yet we are still living in the shadow of that catastrophe. The real question is not why their world collapsed. The real question is, are we repeating their mistakes?